Hello, confirmands! Welcome to our first ever virtual confirmation lesson. 8th graders, welcome back. Confirmation ended so abruptly last spring, just as we were in the middle of planning for our Easter sunrise service. We never really got a chance to say goodbye. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you in small group on October 14th. And 7th graders, well, welcome to confirmation. Welcome to this amazing 2-year journey where we will grow together in faith. It was good to see all of you on the 7th. Well, this is our Bible year. It's one of my 2 favorite years of confirmation. And today you found me here at church in the library, reading one of my favorite books. Now, I bet I know what you're thinking, my young confirmands. You're thinking, oh, she's talking about the Bible. She was reading the Bible. Well, not so fast. I'm actually reading a book called Ruth. And yes, I happen to be reading the comic book version of it. Well, I can hear some of your objections already. But Ruth is a part of the Bible. Well, true enough. But before you start patting yourself on the back, I'm here to tell you that the Bible is not really a book. The Bible is really more like the library that I'm currently sitting in. Confused? Don't worry. We'll get it all sorted before this lesson is over. The Bible really is a library. I know it looks like a book, but it's a library, a portable library, one you can take or have with you. This library of ours contains 66 different books that have been bound together. And just like other libraries have different sections and different kinds of books or literature, so too does the Bible. The Bible is divided into 2 main sections. We call them the Old Testament and the New Testament. And if you look at the table of contents in your confirmation Bible, you'll see, I've got it marked here, hang on. You'll see that each of those major sections is divided into subsections like the Pentateuch or prophets, or in the New Testament we have the Gospels and Acts and the letters of Paul. Within each section, there are a variety of books. Some of the books are narratives or stories. Some of them are poetry. Some of them read like legal document. Some are folk tales. Some are letters like the kind the mail carrier brings. Some of the books are kind of strange, like parts of Daniel and Revelation. There really are lots of different kinds of books and different kinds of writing in the Bible. So you see, the Bible is not really a book. It's a bunch of books, a library that has been bound together. Libraries today have books that have been written at all different times in history. You can find great works of old literature like Shakespeare's plays or sonnets from the 1500s. And you can find the books that are hot off the presses, books that have just been published this year. The Bible, too, has books that were written over a long period of time. Most scholars today think that the earliest parts of the Bible, those parts that are the most ancient, were probably written around 1200 BCE. BCE stands for before the Common Era, so about 1200 years before the time of Jesus. That's a long time ago. The song that the Israelites sing after they escape from Egypt across the Red Sea, you can find that in Exodus 15, by the way. This song of the sea and Miriam's song are generally thought to be one of the oldest parts of the Bible. On the other hand, the most recent books of the Bible were probably written in the early 100s CE. CE stands for Common Era, so 100 years after the birth of Jesus. So all told, the books of the Bible were written over a period of something like 1,300 years or so. Well, at this point, you might be wondering, how did all of these various books written over such a long period of history come together to be what we call the Bible? After all, there are lots and lots and lots of books that have been written about God and faith and Jesus. I'm sitting in a library that's full of just those kind of books. So why these books? Why those 66 books? Good question, confirmands. The process of deciding which books should be part of the Bible, that process is called canonization. The Old Testament canon came together in its final form not too long before Jesus was born, because we think that the latest writings of the Old Testament were written right around the year 160 BCE. The New Testament canon didn't reach its final form until about the 4th century CE. The earliest New Testament writing is Paul's first letter to the Thessalonians and dates to about 50 CE. And as I said before, the latest writings of the New Testament date to the last part of the 1st century or even the early parts of the 2nd century. But it took until the year 397 before church leaders finally settled on which books to include in the New Testament. I think at this point I want to point something out. All of the writings of the New Testament were written after Jesus died, and the New Testament didn't take its final form until much later. This is important because parts of the New Testament, especially parts of the Gospel, and Matthew really likes to do this, refer to the Scriptures. Matthew, for example, says time and time again something along the lines of, "And this happened to fulfill what was written in the Scriptures." This is a reference to the Old Testament because that was the only Scripture in existence at the time. The Bible that Jesus read is what we call the Old Testament. Jesus would probably not have called it the Old Testament. He would have just called it the Bible. This is also important to remember because the New Testament assumes that its readers know the stories of the Old Testament. And so it's important that today we continue to study and learn about the Old Testament. Sometimes today, the Old Testament is called the Hebrew Bible or the Tanakh. Tanakh is actually a Hebrew acronym for the parts of the Old Testament. T is for Torah, or the first 5 books of the Bible. N is for Nevi'im, which means prophets, and it includes not only the prophets but also the historical books like Joshua and Judges. The K is for Ketuvim, which means writings. It's kind of a catch-all category for the rest of the books of the Old Testament. It includes things like Psalms and Proverbs and Ecclesiastes and Ruth, along with a couple of others. This fall in confirmation, we will be exploring the Old Testament. In October, we will focus on the Torah. In November, we will be looking at the prophets and the historical books. And in December, we will look at a couple of the writings before turning our attention to Advent and to the birth of Jesus. Now, you're a pretty observant and curious group of confirmands. I can sense that even here through cyberspace. And so you no doubt noticed that when talking about the Old Testament, I made a reference to the language of Hebrew. And being a curious group, you are probably wondering, why in the world would I talk about Hebrew? Well, confirmands, that's because the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. Well, mostly written in Hebrew. A little bit of it, the latest parts, like some of the chapters in the book of Daniel, are actually written in Aramaic. Aramaic is a related language to Hebrew and is probably the language that Jesus spoke at home when he was with his fellow Jews. The New Testament, however, was written in Greek because that was the main language of the day when the New Testament was being written. So the Old Testament was originally written in Hebrew with a little bit of Aramaic. And the New Testament was originally written in Greek, which means that the Bible you have is an English translation. Here at OSL, we largely use the New Revised Standard Version. That's the version of your confirmation Bible. But there are lots and lots of translations. Why? Because translating from one language into another is not always easy. Languages aren't codes. You can't always just substitute one word in for another and have it make sense. Some words you can. Some words translate really well. For example, the Hebrew word am means the same thing that the English word mother means. But the Hebrew word chesed has no English equivalent. It's usually translated using a phrase, steadfast love. That comes pretty close. But chesed means more than steadfast love. It means covenant loyalty and mercy too. And it's an important word for us because God describes God's self as being full of chesed. God says, I am a God who is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in chesed, in steadfast love and faithfulness. The same, of course, is true for Biblical Greek. Now, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Hebrew or Greek, you can connect with me. That is one of the projects that you can do in any of the months this fall. Okay, so far, we've learned that the Bible is more like a library, full of different kinds of books written over a long period of history. We've talked a little bit about how the books of the Bible came together, and we've learned that the Bible was not originally written in English, but rather in Hebrew and Greek. But what we haven't yet talked about is why these books matter. Why should we read and study the Bible at all? To answer this question, I think I'm going to phone a friend. Here's what Martin Luther has to say. Think of the scriptures as the highest and noblest of holy things, as the richest of minds, which can never be exhausted of wealth, so that you may find the divine wisdom that God lays before you. Here you will find the swaddling clothes and the manger in which Christ lies, and to which the angel points the shepherds. Simple and lowly are these swaddling clothes, but dear is the treasure, Christ, who lies in them. I like this image of the Bible as the manger that holds Jesus. The point, I think, that my dear friend Martin is trying to make is that we read and study Scripture because it draws us closer to Jesus. In the Bible, we hear and read the stories of how God and God's people have lived together and continue to live together with each other. We hear about God's love and grace and mercy and faithfulness and forgiveness. We hear stories that inspire us and encourage us to live more faithful lives. We hear words of advice and wisdom. We can read poems and prayers that praise God or that cry out to God when we are hurting. We hear stories about how the Holy Spirit inspired the early church to tell and to pass on the stories of Jesus. The author of the Gospel according to John says something similar. He writes, "But these are written so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through believing you may have life in his name." So, we read and study the Bible not for the Bible's sake, but to be drawn closer to Jesus. So, we've covered quite a bit of ground today. Thanks for sticking with me. I have just one last thing that I want to go over, and it's a practical thing. How do you find all of these things in the Bible? Well, libraries use notational systems like the Dewey Decimal System or the Library of Congress system to help you find a book. The Bible has its own system that uses the name of the book and a couple of numbers. Let's see how this works. Let's take, for example, Philippians 1, 3 through 6. The first part is the name of the book. You can look in the table of contents to find where the book is located. I happen to know that Philippians is in the New Testament. It's one of Paul's letters, so I'm going to flip towards the back of the book. There we go. Next comes the chapter number. In our case, it's chapter 1, Philippians chapter 1. Then there are usually 2 colons that separate the chapter number from the verse number. In our example, we have verses 3 through 6. So we have Philippians chapter 1, verses 3 through 6. If you tried to find this in your confirmation Bible, you can find it on page 1291. Here's what Paul says in those verses. I thank my God every time I remember you, constantly praying with joy in every one of my prayers for all of you, because of your sharing in the gospel from the first day until now. I am confident of this, that the one who began a good work among you will bring it to completion by the day of Jesus Christ. Okay, I have posted in the lesson section on our confirmation page on our website a link to a worksheet that will give you an opportunity to practice looking up some Bible verses. Here's what I want you to do. Click on that link and open up the worksheet, and then look up the verses that are listed there. Try to collect all of the items named in the verses, and then take a picture of that collection of items to share with your small group the next time you're together. Some of the verses have multiple items listed. You can just pick one of them to add to your collection. And if you don't happen to have one of the items in your home, don't worry. There are a few things I don't have either. Confirmands, I really do thank God every time I remember you, giving thanks to God for the ways in which we share together in this journey of faith. I am really looking forward to this next year, to these next 2 years together in confirmation with you as we grow in love and faith. I hope that you are staying well and safe and healthy. I look forward to seeing you in small group.